So I had a very interesting first year as a co-angler on the BFL circuit of the FLW. Stay tuned, it's coming up. Alrighty y'all, Lou here from Beyond the Bounds. This is a channel geared towards bass fishing, gear reviews, tournament footage. So if you like that sort of thing, click that subscribe button down below. Make sure you hit that bell so you get notified when I release new videos. Today's video is really just a recap of kind of everything that's happened to me during my first year as a co-angler on the BFL circuit, the FLW tour. So let's just jump right into this, guys, because you know, it was pretty interesting. It was a great time. There were some definitely highs, some definite lows, but that's bass fishing. And that's why we do it, and that's why we love it, and we love the thrill of competing. And I had just a phenomenal time this year, despite some of the things that had happened, and really wouldn't trade all the experiences for the world or even a win. You know, I definitely didn't get my first win. A matter of fact, throughout the season, I only made one limit. And not only that, that limit should have been DQ'd anyway. So, you know, it was pretty eventful to say the least. But let's start off with the first event of the year. It was on the Potomac. It was pretty good weather for that event. And, you know, we're running around, doing great stuff on the water, hitting different spots and everything. We're like, okay, let's head south. Let's go to Aquia and get on the spawn bite that always happens at the mouth of Aquia down there. And basically on the way running back to, or running down to Aquia, my boater flings a prop, doesn't have a spare prop. Note to self, note to anybody with a boat, get a spare prop. I actually don't have one right now. I'm gonna buy one. But you know, we fling a blade, and now I know kind of what a fling blade feels like. So I learned something right off the bat. And that's why I did this. That's why I'm a co-angler, is because I want to learn. I want to be a better angler and get myself into a position to where I can compete. And being a co-angler is definitely going to help me get there, because I like to mimic people. I like to learn from other people, which is why you're watching the videos, because you like to learn from other people as well. You know, that's just that first lesson in bass fishing right there, and bass tournament fishing, is that not everything's going to go your way. I mean, here I am, I'm pumped, I'm geared up, been prepping for this for weeks, stayed overnight locally so I could get there the next morning super early and just be ready to go, and bam, our fishing day just hits a brick wall. Basically, I've paid my money to ride around in a boat with a guy who's just going to trolling motor on high all the way back to check-in, which we ended up doing. And we ended up catching fish. And I learned a few extra spots and how to fish those extra spots. So overall, you know, I take that as a win. That's just how I deal with things, guys. Anytime something negatively impacts me, I always try to find the good in it. I may get down on it just for a little bit, but then I come back and I try to rally and try to find that good in it. And, you know, like I said, I was watching how he was using his boat. I know what a thrown prop on the motor feels like, because we were driving and it was like, whoa, something just happened and it wasn't right. And I felt it, he felt it, and I saw how it was dealt with. So essentially we just used the trolling motor, put it on high, made our way back to check in, and believe it or not, my boater actually ended up catching 4 fish and actually weighed in a pretty good bag. I caught a couple fish and, you know, didn't really weigh in all that much, but again, that's how it goes, and that's that lesson of bass fishing. It's not going to go how you want it to go all the time, and bass fishing is so much about adversity and dealing with that, with equipment failures, with the way that the bass act on the line. You know, something's going to go wrong. That's why you always hear the pros talk about fishing clean and not making any mistakes, because especially when you get to their level, everything has to be so on point that it has to go right, and everything has to line up for you to win. You could be the best angler in the world and not win because certain things just aren't going to go your way. The weather, everything. So how you deal with that and how you walk away really is what is the determining factor. So the second event of the year was on the Potomac as well. I didn't get to film this event out of respect to my boater, because he just basically was like, yeah, you know, I'd kind of prefer you didn't. I don't really care if you do. But since he made that statement, I didn't film. Now, you know, I was able to catch a pretty mondo bass that day. I can't remember if his 5.63 pounds or if it's a 6-pounder or anything, but I definitely landed 2 fish for 8 pounds. So that tells you how big that one fish was. And you know, would have been a good fish for him to have in his bag. Probably would have propelled him definitely into the money, but he failed to catch a limit. And again, you know, I'm seeing people who I consider really good anglers. This guy I consider a really good angler. Matter of fact, I think he's a TBF champion as well up on the upper Chesapeake. So, you know, it was really cool to be on a boat with somebody of that caliber, watch how he fished, and you know, I learned a key presentation that he utilized that time, and I use that presentation now all the time. Almost every time I go out on the boat, it's a presentation that allows me to catch fish in tough conditions. And you know, had I not been on his boat, I wouldn't have learned that presentation. So yeah, maybe I only caught 2 fish, but I learned something, guys, and I learned something that has helped me out tremendously through the competitions that I've been in since then. Just because things don't go right, just because things aren't the best at every event and you didn't catch a limit, doesn't mean you didn't come out a winner in that event. I definitely learned stuff, and I'm thankful for that. And I, like I said, was able to catch a huge, good fish, and that felt really good. And I caught that big fish on the Mach 2 speed stick. I was actually cranking a square bill and was cranking it on this this combo right here. It handled it really well. The action of this rod really allowed me to land that fish. It didn't allow me to overpower or truly like manhandle that fish, but it allowed me to keep that big fish pegged, because that big fish was really trying to get to shake that crankbait. And had I been throwing it on another rod, I might not have necessarily landed that. The other part I learned from that too is that, you know, some of these boaters, they might try to rush you. Actually, that boater tried to rush me in landing my fish. Now again, I'm fighting this fish with a medium heavy action here that's got a lot of bend to it. It's a really heavy fish. And not only that, it was on a crankbait. All right, so man, fish will throw crankbaits like no other, but this combo was really fighting that fish for me and allowing me to kind of maneuver it a little bit, but still get in a position to where I could finally tire that fish out and get it to the net. But the boater kind of rushed me a little bit. So, you know, I took that into consideration for any next event, to where I was like, I don't care what a boater wants, how fast they want me to land a fish. I'm not going to do that. And I want to convey that to you guys too. Don't allow them to dictate how fast you land your fish. All right, you paid your money just like they did, and you're not up there trying to force them to land their fish any faster. So it should be a very reciprocal agreement that they don't try to do that to you. And luckily, that's about the only boater that I've had do that thus far. I had another one kind of joke with me about it, but we were having a great time just joking and telling jokes all day long. So whether he was serious or not didn't really matter, because like I said, we were already in a good situation there where we had a rapport. So moving on to Lake Champlain as one of my next events was really cool, because I got to fish a brand new body of water. Body of water I've heard tons of good things about. I landed my first limit in a tournament and it was just been phenomenal, guys. I just felt I was on cloud 9 just landing a tournament. Actually squeaked out a little bit better of a weight than my boater. So, you know, I was happy about that. The problem arose when, you know, I didn't read the rules. And I didn't read the rules close enough, and I should have been DQ'd on that. I contacted the tournament director afterwards and let them know about it, but you know, I never heard back from them after that. So, but on that event, essentially what I did was I didn't have a license. I didn't have all the necessary licenses. I needed a Vermont license to fish the waters that both Vermont and New York share on Lake Champlain. I had the New York license, just didn't have the Vermont one. Should have read the rules, should have DQ'd myself. Lesson learned, and you know, you just got to move on from it. And the next time that happens, it won't actually happen, because I'm going to read the rules. That's on me, and you need to know those going into any tournament, whether it be an ABA, a FLW tour, a kayak tournament. Read the rules. You know, that was my fault 100%. But it also was a phenomenally fun trip. I was able to take my wife with me. We went around and saw the sights, saw Fort Ticonderoga, went up there, overlooked Fort Ticonderoga, and then was looking down there, and I'm like, holy crap, there's a huge grass flat there. Guess what? That grass flat's a key place to fish for spawning fish. But I saw it from an aerial view and was like, man, that's a great place to fish. So, you know, those are the things that I learned, and these are some of my takeaways that, despite not being, you know, named co-angler of the year or winning tons of money, I still walked away with experiences, and I walked away with things that I'm gonna remember for the rest of my life. Moving on to Thousand Islands, yet another trip that I'm gonna remember for the rest of my life. I took my mom up there. We had so much fun fishing. We had one day where we caught over 100 fish that I found, that I put us on. You know, I got to practice more of my driving around and mapping and deep water and electronics. And, you know, I got to meet an awesome angler by the name of Joe Thompson, who went on to win the BFL regional here on the upper Chesapeake. And, you know, I got to fish a whole day with him, watch how he did things, watched how he practiced. And I just met him at the bar the night before too. You know, I went up there with Smallmouth Crush and Joe Thompson too. Met them at our lodging. We went to the bar, was talking to him. He invited me out, and I took him up on the opportunity. But you see, these are those true wins that I gained from the year, despite not catching, you know, full limits and getting up there and placing. I made memories, I made friends, I made contacts and built my network out, and I learned the location. I ended up going through this tournament, and you know what happened during this tournament? This is what happened for me for my limit on this tournament. Oh, thank you. Thank you. He's coming up too. Dang it, stop coming up. No! Dang! Oh, come on, man, I needed that. So yeah, right there, yeah. Didn't really want that to happen. That was a big fish, would have really helped me out, completed my limit. But you know what? Like I said, bass fishing just keeps knocking it home. It keeps delivering those lessons, and how you deal with that and what you walk away with is going to determine what type of angler you are, both on and off the water. On the schedule that I was on the Northeast Division schedule. I skipped out of the Oneida event to go down to ICAST, which was a blast. I can't wait to go again this next year. And you know, I got to fish with Brad Knight, got to go out on Lake Toho, fish another body of water, see the different types of conditions, see how Brad Knight fishes a body of water with basically zero practice, and see how he picked things out to be like, well, let's just go ahead and start here, because those are exactly the same things I would have picked out. You know, I built a lot of confidence in a lot of things despite not always catching tons and tons of fish. At the end of the day, my goal for this whole thing, for what I'm doing with my fishing career, my fishing life that I'm trying to do, is just try to get better. I want to be the best that I can be. And I want to bring you guys along for that ride. So we didn't do too well in that event. I caught the only keeper for the boat. You know, oh well, had a lot of fun, was down there to be at ICAST anyway. I think like 25 pounds, I think 22 to 25 won the event. So, you know, some people with some home course knowledge definitely knocked it home during the like 4 hours that we got to fish. But again, it was really cool. Got to watch how a pro angler used his boat, cut waves, cut through vegetation, chewing up lily pads with a big old Merc on the back. So again, learning experience, guys, all about learning. I'm going to take these lessons and continue them on. I ended up towards the end of September competing in a BFL as a boater, and that was a really good experience for me because I finished halfway in the field with the amount of fish that I caught. And I finished ahead of some people who normally wipe the floor with me, and I finished close to people who normally wipe the floor with me. So, you know, I finally got to put myself in a position to where I was able to pre-fish for a tournament and then go in and actually fish that tournament, and I did rather well. So, you know, I walked away with that event holding my head high and being confident in myself that, one, I developed a pattern, and now in hindsight, I've gone back and reanalyzed that and been like, okay, I think I could have done this better. Hindsight's 2020, and I've analyzed and found things that I'm like, okay, I would have changed this for the next event that would have happened. I wouldn't have made this decision that I made then. So it's, again, about growing, and I think I've become a better angler and a better boater from doing that. And I'm looking really forward to this next year to be able to get out there and mix it up again. I'm not going to be doing the ABA events, but you know, I will be doing other tournaments and maybe some as a boater. So that pretty much recaps my 2018 season right there. I went out there, and though I didn't catch a lot of limits and cash any checks or get up there on the podium, you know, my season for me and the goals that I set out, I really accomplished those. I learned as much as I possibly could. I've gone back and analyzed things after the events and been like, okay, this is why that boater chose this. This is why they were using different tactics. I learned, like I said, new tactics. I learned locations on bodies of water that I've never been to before. I've learned better Lowrance navigation and better Lowrance, you know, 2D sonar tricks and how to interpret them even better. So I've grown as an angler, and I'm going to take these experiences with me to other bodies of water and be able to replicate those. You know, I was able to travel with my wife, have a great time, go see different sites. Like I said, Fort Ticonderoga, some of the other sites around like Lake George, we went to there afterwards. You know, that was a vacation. These are meant to be fun. And don't think that just because, you know, I approach it in this manner that I want to win any less. Believe me, I am hungry for the win. I'm trying my absolute best to win. But when you're in a co-angler position, you're really just at the whim of what the boater does. And you're at the whim of how good they are and maybe the patterns that they're on. You know, so, but I'm still learning stuff. And once I get to a position to where I'm like, okay, I can't stand this anymore, then that's when I'll make the switch. But right now, I'm learning too much. I'm having too much fun. It's kept my costs down for some of these events. I'm meeting new people. I'm making a network. And again, I'm just having fun. I'm in this for the experience of this. I don't approach all of these events like, oh, I gotta win. If I don't win, you know, oh, the sun's gonna fall down out of the sky or something. I'm not gonna pay my mortgage or something like that. You know, some of these people that are approaching it like that, they're not having the fun they could be having. And that's on them for not putting themselves in that position to have that fun. This is an expensive sport. I've gone through a lot of that in some of the videos that I've done. If that's kind of what you're going after, it's not gonna be as fun and you're gonna lose out on some of that enjoyment. You might fish a little bit harder, or you might not. I mean, I fish as hard as I possibly can out there all the time. But the point I'm really trying to make is that if you are not enjoying this, if you're not learning, then you're really losing. You're losing out on an experience that you're gonna look back on when you're 80 or 90 years old, and you're gonna be like, man, I enjoyed it. I'm glad I did it. For me, I made great memories with my mom out on 1,000 islands. We're just pulling up little smallies left and right, but we were catching, man. We were catching 100 fish in one day. You know, that was just an experience. That's something that I'm gonna cherish for the rest of my life. But like I said, I watched what other boats were doing. I learned new locations, new ways to fish, presentations, and these are all things that are gonna help me out through the rest of my fishing career. So guys, this is part of a series for being a co-angler and learning how to go through co-angler events and just overall the co-angler experience. So, you know, make sure you watch the other videos in this playlist that talk about gear, about tips and tricks, about what to expect, because those will really help you out, especially if you're a first year co-angler like I was this year, because I want you to have an enjoyable experience. I want you to, you know, go out there and just have fun no matter what. Maybe keep this in the back of your mind that it's like, okay, yeah, I didn't catch a limit, but by golly, I learned something and I had a blast. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Y'all have a good one.